In this video, I'm going to talk you through 7 things you ought to be aware of before splashing out on the Pioneer DDJ-1000SRT, the brand new, at the time of recording this, Serato version of the runaway successful DDJ-1000 controller. If you're coming to this controller as a Serato user and thinking, that's the one for me, just think about these things before buying it. It's a great controller, but it's not a typical Serato controller. And there are things that you might wish you'd known about before splashing out the not small sum of money that they're asking for this. So that's what we are looking at today. If you find this useful, please do subscribe to the channel, do share it and like it, so we can bring you more videos just like this one. Right, shall we get started? The first thing that I want you to be aware of is that this is a Serato controller only. It doesn't work with rekordbox. Now, when rekordbox was first launched as Pioneer's own software platform, all of its Serato controllers at the time worked with rekordbox. Great, if you had one of those, you could plug it into Serato or rekordbox and use either software. That isn't the case recently with Pioneer controllers, and it isn't the case with this one. It only works with Serato. So you're gonna have to make the choice. The original DDJ-1000, it looks exactly the same. I mean, it is exactly the same. It'll fit the same cases and everything, but you have to make a choice. Do you want to go down the rekordbox route, or do you want to go down the Serato route with these controllers? Because you can't have both. So that's the first thing I want you to be aware of. The second thing I want you to be aware of is that this unit does not have any Serato software effects on it at all. They're just not there. So Serato effects are usually at the top here. There's usually 3 knobs and 4 knobs actually, and a few little buttons to turn them on and off and to select certain parameters. They're just not there. Now that's not really surprising, because this unit is based upon Club DJ gear, and Club DJ gear has the effects on the mixer. We're going to get onto the effects on the mixer in a bit. For you Serato users though, you might be expecting to be able to control your effects from the unit, and you can't. So be aware that this is what you've gained in the club look and feel. You're kind of losing the mirroring of the functions between the software and the unit. So no Serato software effects at all on the unit itself. So the third thing I want to draw your attention to is the looping. Now, the looping on this I don't think is particularly good. It works, you can do everything you can do on any other controller, it's all there. I just don't find it very intuitive. Let me explain what I mean. Let's start some music playing on here. So at the top here is this kind of looping area, which is very familiar to anyone who's used gear in a pro DJ booth. The buttons look the same, but they're not the same function-wise as they are on a Nexus unit. They're not even the same function-wise as they are on the DDJ-1000 rekordbox controller. And I don't actually like the way they've done it. I'll explain to you why. So if I want to set a loop going up here, I want to set a 4-beat loop. The beat's coming back here, I'll set one here. There's a 4-beat loop going there, and I want to halve that loop to a 2-beat loop. Normally I'd press this button here. That's how it works on the rekordbox version. And I could double it by pressing this button here. So I could very quickly set that loop going at 4 beats. Before it's got to the 4 beats, I've set it to a 1-beat loop or an 8-beat loop or whatever. So in other words, by pressing that and then one of these buttons, I can set any length of preset loop like that. It's not as easy with this, because now if I want to half or double the length of that loop, I've got to find the shift button, which is it's there between these beat jump buttons, we'll get onto those, and this little button here. So I've got to hold that and then press one of these. So I want to halve that. That's now halved. Halved again to 1 beat. You know, so you can do this stuff. It's not as intuitive, because it's on, find that, then do that. And to me, I don't like that. To me, this should be just like bang. You know, the nicest way of doing this is the single encoder, where you press it down to turn it on, press it down again to turn it off, and you turn it to select the length of the loop. I mean, I think that's a very elegant solution. I wouldn't expect to find it on here, because it's not a control you find on the media players in the Pro DJ booth, which is the reason for this controller's existence, as I say, to mirror that. But I think this is a little bit clunky. You do get other loop controls down here, loop roll and save loops and so on. But again, I just want that immediacy and it's not here. So for me, there's a small minus there in the way the looping works. So the next thing is the hardware effects. So look, these are things that I want you to consider. As I say, it's a good controller. No, it's just not typical. So I just want you to consider these and see whether they're things that would matter to you. This is a good one though. I think these are great. The hardware effects are fantastic. So you get the The sound color effects, which are, just as a reminder, they're the effects that are on the knobs here. That's a filter, and there's a few more here. The dub echo is really nice, as I'm sure you know if you've used it before. And you can hear that's post fader, which is really nice. So you get those, and you also get the beat effects here, which are Pioneers. Again, if you're used to using a Pioneer mixer, big on-off button here. You select what you want to affect here, and you've got loads and loads and loads of them to choose from here. There's a transform effect, randomly chosen out of all of these. I mean, there really are lots and lots of effects there for you to choose from. So that's what you get. They're hardware. Hardware is really good. That means that they are built into the unit, and as I say, they're nothing to do with Serato. So if you had record decks or CDJs plugged into here, you could use the effects as well. You could unplug your computer and still use the effects. That's pretty smart. But even better, if you hit record on Serato, it will record what you're doing with the effects and everything in the software, just as if you were recording normal software effects. So you're not losing anything you do on here in your recording of your set. And even better than that, even if you've got record decks plugged in here, or CDJs, or a live drummer or a singer or whatever, that gets recorded in the software as well. That's pretty smart. I really, really like that. So a big plus point there for the way that's been implemented. Pioneer effects sound amazing. They are pretty much industry standard. And I don't think anyone would really miss them, especially if you hadn't used Serato's effects. But if you want to get Serato's effects back, you can buy a MIDI controller or use any MIDI controller. You've got knocking around to get those back, or just to access them on the screen. I mean, they're still there. They're just not on the unit itself. So the next thing I want to move on to is another plus point, which is the key controls down here. These don't exist on, well, there's some of them do, but not in this kind of layout, and not, there's certainly, I don't think there's a key reset. We're going to talk about what we've got here on any other Serato controller. And these are really nice. So let's just start that music playing again and have a look at what we've got here. So to start with, we've got key sync. So you can sync the key between two decks. Use that carefully, people. It can sound terrible. But we've also got key up and key down, which is nice. So you can hold down that aforementioned shift button and reduce the key of the track, and up the key of the track, and you can reset it by pressing that button there, and you're back to normal again, up or down a whole octave. And also you've got the usual key lock here as well if you want to match key between the decks for harmonic mixing. The reason I like those is that they're right there. They're right by your crossfader. They're right by the deck controls. So it'll encourage you to be musical with them and do stuff that maybe you wouldn't normally have done. And it's worth pointing those out because it's unusual to have those. You don't even get those on a Pioneer Pro setup in the Pro DJ booth. Again, one of those examples of this looking and feeling just like Pro gear, but look at the edges and stuff's a little bit different. So another thing I want to bring your attention to is beat jump. So while we're talking about controls that look the same but do different things, these two buttons here are track search on the traditional CDJ. So they'll move you right to the beginning of, or to the next or the previous track. It doesn't do that here at all. They're just not what it does. You want to get to the beginning of the track, just on normal Serato, you press Shift and Q, and you're back at the beginning of the track, right? So it's just not there. So what's in its place? Beat jump. Beat jump's really nice. So beat jump, if I set a loop going on this track, the loop there now, beat jump will allow me to take that loop and move it forwards and backwards through the track. So I can move it forwards by pressing it this way. At the moment it's moving by a tiny amount, by like a fraction of a beat. If I want to change the amount it moves to do something a bit more meaningful, I can hold down Shift and press double or half. Just like holding down Shift and pressing double or half alters the length of a loop you've set there. So press that a few times. Now when I press beat jump, it'll jump quite a long way, and very quickly we're into the musical part of the track. Now I'm jumping by the whole length of that loop through the track, which is great. But the issue I've got with this is I can't see anywhere on the software, on the screen, on this screen, anywhere that tells me what I've just set that to. Now I know by trial and error and looking at the screen that that's jumping 4 beats at a time, backwards and forwards. And if I press Shift and do that, it should jump 2 beats. Yeah, it is. But there's nothing to tell me that. And I think that's a bit of an oversight. Look, there's a big screen right there. Surely they could have put something on there. I mean, it's really strange. I'm just double checking now, make sure it's just not me. If I've got this wrong, please tell me underneath, but I don't think there's any way of seeing that So that to me feels incomplete. But I mean, where can I tell? Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. So I think beat jump, good idea. Nice to have it there. It's not on the pads, which is where you find it on normal record box controllers. So it's good that it's there, but I don't like that implementation of beat jump. And finally, the displays. Because if you've seen a record box pal using this controller and seen the displays with the lovely waveform and the cue points in it and stuff and thought, oh, I quite like that, there's none of that on here. Here you have basically a copy of what you see in your deck in the software. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. People love that. You know, you've got your 12 o'clock point for the for scratching there, and it's nicely implemented. What it isn't is any different to this, and very different to what you see on record box. So if you're going to miss the cue points and if you're going to miss the waveforms, just bear in mind that that is how it is on this unit. For me, I don't really mind. I think it's quite nice what you've got there. It's useful information. I don't really care that there's no waveform there, but you might be different. So again, something I just wanted to point out to you. So there you go. It's a great controller. For a lot of people, this is exactly what they've been wanting. It looks and feels just like Pro DJ gear in the Pro booth. And by and large, you know, the jogwheels, they are CDJ jogwheels. The mixer, it is a mixer just like a DDJ-1000. It really, really is. Nearly everything's exactly where it should be. It's almost fully featured. The effects are exactly, they sound the same, they feel the same. It's very new for Serato and very exciting for Serato, but it is atypical. It is not kind of the best controller for Serato necessarily. You might be better off with one of the previous, more conventionally laid out controllers if those controls are interesting to you and there's stuff that you would miss on a controller like this. So there you go, there's 7 things for you to think about if you're considering coming to this controller from another Serato controller, or you've seen the DDJ-1000 for record box and you think, I want that for Serato as well. Just bear these things in mind before spending all that money. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, again, please do share, follow and like. I'd love to know what you think about this. I'd love to know the plus points and the minus points for you, whether you're coming from another Serato controller or maybe from record box. Let us know underneath in the comments. And meanwhile, get good, get out there and make the moments.